You can sleep beside someone every night and still feel completely alone. That's the reality for so many women in emotionally one-sided marriages. And that's exactly what we're discussing today. So welcome back to the mic, beautiful sisters. Last week I discussed the silent ache that a lot of married women do go through, where they feel emotionally abandoned. And I talked about detaching and decentering marriage and parenting. Now, I'd like to clarify that detaching is done with wisdom. You're not detaching to escape the marriage. You're detaching to stop losing yourself inside of it. So today we're going to talk about decentering your marriage. I want to share with you 4 keys to reclaiming your own heart, to reclaiming yourself. And I've kept all of them in that time-stamped content in a way that you can quickly go and practice them. When you bravely face the painful reality of loneliness with an emotionally avoidant husband, then you can begin to do the powerful work of detachment and decentering. You're decentering from your marriage and decentering from parenting. But detaching is not the finish line. You might just ask, what do you do with the space that you've now created? Because if you don't focus on the deep internal work, you're going to start swinging into emotional extremes. You can feel re-triggered all over again, feeling abandoned. You might even become revengeful or even start ending a marriage prematurely. So I want to hold space for a moment. Understand that often the root of your husband's avoidance is a genuine lack of emotional skills. And often it comes from maybe enmeshed backgrounds, like I explained in the last episode. Your husband may be a good man who simply needs to figure out how to be emotionally attuned, first to his own needs and then eventually to yours. But anyway, his journey is his own responsibility and your own journey is your own. So we're going to talk about the 4 different ways that you can reclaim yourself and reprioritize your own emotional needs. The first key I recommend is stop circling. Alright, prioritize your healing. And what do I mean? If you are into couple counseling, just stop. Okay? Now, hearing that from me as a couple counselor, you might go like, what's this lady saying? Yes. So when you are detaching and decentering and you're continuing joint sessions, it can keep you in a circling loop where you find yourself constantly seeking validation from your husband. And that is not necessarily where you want to be. Your focus must shift 100% inwardly to yourself so that you can complete that foundational work on your own core wounds, such as rejection, feelings of unworthiness, and all the grief that can come with the disappointments of your unmet needs. This is really powerful because this is where your true power lies. Alright? This helps you to prioritize you and focus on your own needs. I'll tell you more about the power of focusing on yourself and ensuring that the work is done for you, prioritizing your healing. The second thing I want you to keep in mind is to guard your heart. This is spiritual warfare, honestly. The real enemy wants your faith and your affection and your love for God. Your marriage may feel like the battleground, but your heart is the primary target. Okay? Now, as women, our hearts are tender. We thrive in emotional safety. And when there is a rupture in our attachment to our lover, our husbands, chances are we begin to question every belief we have about ourselves and maybe even our core spiritual beliefs. Now, if you throw your faith away, you will inevitably start questioning your purpose and consequently your fulfillment. This is so important. This is why the war is targeted at your heart. I want you to think about the different ways you can do the warfare. It will be in deliberate acts of prayer, in deliberate acts of meditation, and in deliberate acts of powerful declaration of God's promises over your life. And no, it doesn't have to be done with so much energy. Okay? It's in your faith, that childlike simple faith. And I know how important this is because when you are overwhelmed with all the loneliness that can come from not having your emotional needs met, you might be feeling really too exhausted to even pray. I'll tell you what, you can just tell AI to create for you 10 scriptural backed up declarations of faith for you as a woman, and that helps you feel needed, your inner child feel validated and loved. Tell it to give you scriptures on God's love for you. Tell it to give you scriptures of declaring your faith and your love for Jesus and your commitment to the Lord. It's amazing how AI can do that. I grew up in a church where, God bless my pastor, Pastor Kwadwo Yamade of Covenant Nation, and back in Nigeria. Back then, he would just take the effort and create declarations for all of us. Like literally, like a father will hold you and create them, and then ask us all to print it out in PDFs and make those declarations. Now I'm glad I got the habit of creating them myself, and now I can tell AI, give the AI that prompt, and it can do it for me. But of course, I'll be anchoring them to scriptures that resonates very deeply to my heart. You're welcome to do that too if you want, because this will help you center on your truth, not on your circumstances. And this is where I say guard your heart with all diligence. Remember you're vulnerable at this time. Pay attention to what you listen to on social media or things like that, and guard your heart very fiercely. That is where the warfare is. Guard your heart from offense. Guard your heart from bitterness. Guard your heart from revenge. Guard your heart from resentment. Guard your heart from unforgiveness. All of that can come in the way of the blessings God actually has for you in the new season. And I'd like you to consider what you're going through as actually a stepping stone for your growth. God has an amazing plan for you in the next season you will step into. All right. I want to also talk about the point of clarifying your needs for this season. Most women are disconnected from their current needs. Why? Because as women, we were taught to put ourselves last. We were socialized to do that. So we do not pay attention when our needs change, because our seasons do change. A woman's body changes so many times that childbirth, conception to delivery to nursing, or premenopause to menopause, and all of that means that your needs are changing. And it's your homework to figure out what your current need is in this season. And this is a long reflection. So you need to get your journal. You can go away on a solo or group retreat, create times for solitude, and write down 10 core needs you have in this season. Financially, spiritually, career, social, anything. It's important that you clarify them and that you begin to see the ways that you can meet your own needs. And prior to that, you may have learned helplessness, believing that it's only your husband's responsibility to meet those needs. So if a woman, for example, says to me, because I'm mothering and wifing, I lost myself, I couldn't figure out what skills or career I need to pursue, and then turns around to blame her husband and say it's his responsibility to do that soul search and figure it out for her. That is not your husband's responsibility. You might need your husband's support to share house chores or look after the children while you take the time to reflect and explore, because this is also important, and that's where you can reclaim yourself. Now, the last point I'd like to talk about is find your own safe validation. You need another woman, a mature, godly woman who you can confide in. Her role is to validate your feelings so you feel heard and understood. You need that experience because remember, being in a lonely marriage is isolating and confusing, and carrying that weight for a long time is devastating to your mental health. So if you can't find one woman that is mature and godly, that is respectful, that understands confidentiality and privacy, you can find a Christian women counselor. I do this for most women in my clinic. And also, I would invite you to join Emotional Healing for Christian Women group. We do have an in-person group here in Victoria, and I'm also starting an online group in January where it can be fortnightly. Check out the link in my website and join us. You're welcome. And further down the line in November, we're going to be having women's retreat, Christian women's retreat. So keep that in the back of your mind and just watch out for the space. And if your mother or auntie can play that role for you, go for it. You need the experience of being calm with another safe person. Now, this is hard work, but it is necessary, alright? In summary, I'm just going to talk about it again. Stop circling in couples counseling, alright? Guard your heart with all diligence. Identify your needs and find a safe woman who can validate your experience, because your peace is worth fighting for, okay? Now, if this message resonated with you, please take a moment right now. Please like, share, and subscribe. It helps this message reach more women who are desperately needing it. And for resources on doing the foundational work we discussed, you can find a link to my book and healing resources on my site. Thank you for listening. Until the next episode, stay beautiful and stay confident. Bye for now. Thank you for spending time with me today on Emotional Healing for Christian Women. If this episode blessed you, please leave a review and share it with a friend who needs encouragement. And don't forget to download my new book, Beyond the Hurt, from my website, marvelademi.com.au, and other free resources. Until next time, stay healed, stay beautiful, and stay confident.